What if I told you the squiggly line between two countries on your phone isn't just a modern boundary, but a scar etched by history, sometimes 2 millennia old? It wasn't always drawn by diplomats in tailored suits, poring over maps, but often by young warriors in bronze armor who genuinely thought the world ended at the next river or mountain ridge. These ancient demarcations, born of ambition, necessity, or even simple convenience, have a profound and often surprising impact on the world we navigate today. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll never look at a frontier, a passport stamp, or even a local accent the same way again. We tend to grow up believing today's borders are rational, sensible products of modern treaties, perhaps the outcome of a war or two, carefully negotiated by nation-states. But let's face a reality check. Most frontiers are far older, veritable fossils of ancient kings and emperors. These rulers weren't thinking about future geopolitics. They were driven by immediate needs. They wanted the fertile wheat fields, the rich copper mine, or simply a river that kept their goats from wandering into hostile territory. Consider Hadrian, the Roman emperor. He famously stamped a 73-mile stone wall across northern Britain. Was it a grand strategic masterpiece? Perhaps. But it was also a pragmatic response, because his soldiers were freezing, and the local tribes kept painting themselves blue and, well, shouting quite a lot. That ancient ditch and wall still profoundly influences the modern English-Scottish border. The same lorries that carry shortbread south from Glasgow still pause within a stone's throw of Roman mile castles. One emperor's winter blues and a desire for a manageable frontier still translates into customs paperwork and distinct legal systems today. It's a testament to how deeply these ancient decisions permeate our present. Let's jump back even further, nearly 4,000 years, to the era of organized states in Egypt's Middle Kingdom. Pharaoh Sesostris III wasn't just a military leader. He was an innovator in statecraft. He drilled a meticulous line of fortresses through the Nile's second cataract, a strategic choke point. He wasn't merely trying to keep out Nubian archers, though that was certainly a benefit. More profoundly, he was pioneering the very idea that a government could declare, "Everything south of this mud brick tower effectively stops here. This is where our authority ends and theirs begins." These imposing forts became the foundational seed of what would eventually evolve into the modern Egypt-Sudan frontier. When British surveyors arrived in 1899, tasked with drawing new colonial lines, they didn't invent boundaries out of thin air. Instead, they simply copied the archaeology, observing the ancient stone foundations and mistakenly thinking they were natural boundaries. They weren't natural at all. They were the monumental manifestation of royal ego and administrative power, poured into sandstone and mud brick, defining a state's reach millennia ago. Fast forward to 550 BCE and the rise of Cyrus the Great. He looked at the chaotic, often warring patchwork of tribes and city-states across the Near East and decided that tidy, organized rows were infinitely better. He didn't just conquer, he meticulously structured. He carved out the innovative Satrapy system, vast provinces, each run by a loyal governor, connected by advanced roads, unified by standardized weights, measures, and, crucially, annual tribute systems. The fertile Tigris-Euphrates corridor became one satrapy, the rugged Iranian plateau another. What's astonishing is how those ancient provincial seams still show up today. The Iraq-Iran border, for example, follows almost exactly the line between Cyrus's ancient satrapies of Babylon and Media. When modern negotiators argue over strategic waterways, like the Shatt al-Arab Islands, they're not just bickering over contemporary resources. In a very real sense, they're still contending with the enduring legacy of Cyrus's sophisticated filing system for his vast empire. His administrative blueprint proved so robust, it outlasted empires and echoes in today's political geography. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of unified China, finished off his rivals and needed something truly grand to brag about. Enter the earliest incarnation of the Great Wall. It's not the perfectly preserved, tourist-friendly cartoon dragon you see on Instagram today. It was initially a formidable chain of tamped-earth garrisons and watchtowers, primarily meant to keep the nomadic Xiongnu tribes from stealing the emperor's prized new horse breeds and raiding agricultural lands. This 215 BCE line didn't just deter raiders, it effectively ossified into the critical agricultural-steppe divide, a fundamental separation between settled Han Chinese civilization and the nomadic northern peoples. Later dynasties, recognizing its strategic and symbolic importance, would repair, extend, and rename sections, but the basic contour, the fundamental defensive barrier, became the rough, enduring boundary between China's Han heartland and Inner Mongolia. Highways today still charge tolls at the very same mountain passes Qin's engineers picked, because, as the legend goes, the goats looked tired trying to cross elsewhere. It's a boundary born of defense and agricultural necessity that persists as a cultural and geographical fault line. Rome, ever the pragmatist, perfected what we might call the franchise model of conquest and administration. They didn't just conquer Gaul, they systematically paved roads, planted cities every day's march apart, and declared Latin the default setting for administration and culture. This meticulous grid of Roman settlements and infrastructure created a distinct cultural and administrative frontier. The frontier of Gaul's extensive city grid, for instance, became the very spine of modern France's northeast border with Germany. Cross the Rhine River, and presto, you immediately noticed a stark difference. There was no Roman grid, no convenient milestones, no ubiquitous wine taverns. That sharp cultural and infrastructural cliff still manifests today as the fuzzy zone, where French street names suddenly switch to German, where architectural styles subtly shift. Caesar wrote home bragging about the incredible bridges and logistical feats that cemented Roman control. Centuries later, we're left with bilingual road signs and distinct national identities that trace back to where Rome's influence waned. The enduring impact of Roman organization is clear in the very fabric of European borders. Medieval Europe started in a rather fluid, and to our modern eyes, peculiar way. Kings didn't primarily rule land, they ruled people. A monarch would proudly declare, "I'm king of the Franks, not king of France." Authority was personal, tied to loyalty and lineage, not fixed geography. But around the 12th century, a pivotal shift occurred. Scholars and lawyers rediscovered Roman law, with its emphasis on property and clearly defined administrative units. Kings, ever eager for more power and resources, quickly realized that fixed turf was far easier to tax, administer, and defend than a constantly shifting personal allegiance. They began commissioning the first colored maps, visually representing their royal territory in fancy pigments, drawing lines where none had existed before. These painted lines, initially just claims on parchment, gradually hardened into tangible borders. The Netherlands-Belgium line, the Spain-Portugal line demarcation, the Poland-Lithuania seam. The very moment a monarch began to call himself king of the land rather than king of the people, he effectively invented the modern territorial state, and with it the seeds of the passport queue, customs checks, and the entire apparatus of modern border control. This was a profound conceptual leap with lasting consequences. Here's the curveball in this historical narrative. Sometimes the most decisive rulers, those whose actions had lasting impact on global geography, never even reached voting age. Take Child King Alfonso XIII of Spain. In 1906, under the polite guidance of shrewd French and Spanish regents, he signed the Algeciras Act. This seemingly obscure treaty effectively split Morocco into French and Spanish protectorates. The boundary drawn in that agreement still forms the modern Morocco-Algeria line, particularly in the contentious Western Sahara. Imagine that, a 12-year-old's royal stamp, guided by adult interests, inadvertently shaped today's migration routes and regional disputes. Next time you read headlines about the fences and complexities surrounding Ceuta and Melilla, those Spanish enclaves in North Africa, remember that their historical roots trace back, in part, to a boy who would probably rather have been playing with toy boats than signing international treaties. It highlights the often unintended and long-lasting consequences of political decisions, regardless of the age of the monarch involved. Ancient borders, particularly in tribal societies, were often seasonal and fluid. You'd move your goats north in summer, south in winter, following pasture and water, with no customs forms or immigration officers. But kings, especially those who wanted to consolidate power and generate consistent revenue, needed predictability. They gradually replaced the informal system of tribute in cows with the more quantifiable system of tribute in coins. And coins, by their very nature, demand clear boundaries for collection. Tribal chiefs were slowly transformed into counts or dukes, beholden to a central monarch. Vast shared grazing commons became taxable farms with clear property lines. The ancient idea of leave the clan was slowly but surely replaced by the more rigid command to leave the territory. These increasingly fixed lines made the concept of nation-states possible, and in turn, nation-states made passports, airport queues, and that universally awkward moment when the immigration officer doesn't quite believe you're just visiting for the hummus. This evolution from fluid to fixed boundaries was a cornerstone in the development of modern political geography. So, next time you stand at a border crossing, whether it's a bustling international airport or a quiet rural checkpoint, try to look past the concrete booths, the board guards, and the flashing signs. Understand that underneath it all is a complex layered cake of dead kings and emperors, still subtly arguing over ancient copper mines, vital wheat fields, and long-forgotten bragging rights. Your citizenship, the currency in your pocket, even the side of the road you drive on. All of these can trace their lineage back, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, To someone on a marble throne who never heard of zip codes or GPS, recognizing that transforms a passive map into a living, breathing time machine, a tapestry woven with the ambitions of millennia. And once you begin to see these historical ghosts, these enduring legacies, you can't unsee them. The world suddenly becomes far richer, far more interconnected, and infinitely more fascinating. If you want more tales of ancient ego, cleverly disguised as modern geography, tap that subscribe button and, please, ring the bell to join our community. Comment below with the weirdest border you've ever crossed. Bonus points if it involved a donkey, a forgotten passport, or an unexpected cultural shift. Stay curious, keep exploring, and always remember, the ground beneath your feet and the lines on your map are just someone else's ancient paperwork.